Hi, I've been waiting for you all. I've been laying on the artificial grass on my balcony that calms me down. And I've been waiting to take you inside homes, fly over them, and invite you in. Um, we start on my balcony, from which it turned out that I have a view on my past. I didn't even know this. When I first moved here, I thought I was going to explore a new part of Poznan, but it turned out that uh, I moved into the place opposite of my mom's student quarters. Uh, so every day when I wake up, I'm reminded of my mom's time here when she was my age. And she lived exactly here where the red curtain is. It now looks something like this. It didn't look like this when my mom lived there with her brother. They have completely different style. Now my mom lives on a Dutch farm, and my uncle in a big house with a cathedral as an attic. Um, but let's first have a look at some concrete blocks that are uh, waving in the wind. Oh, there's a letter to my mom that I forgot to put in the envelope. These blocks have been compared to closets furnished with closets. And indeed, every apartment um, is, on the one hand, completely different, and sometimes with old furniture, sometimes with the typical Polish meblościanki. But on the other hand, they are all like little drawers housing people's lives. So let's now move on, and we can go for a walk. I can meet you outside. I've been sitting on the swing in my neighborhood, um, just like the swing in my backyard once, where I used to uh, dream that the swing would catapult me away and I would be in a different place. I could travel to Poland, for instance. So this is where I live now, in this neighborhood with um, the slanted roofs. Uh, so these are actually, uh, in a way, typical Polish apartment buildings with slanted roofs put upon them and with some neoclassicistic elements to make them individual again, to not make them so uniform. Also, uh, the roofs are returned to a rural style, and uh, you can see the climate of a country by the slant of the roof. So now we went through the bushes to the Vata riverside. Um, in the bushes also live some people. Um, this is a place that I invite you to have a look around yourself, because you need to be very quiet, and it's good to realize that not everybody has a home, especially in these times where everybody says that you need to stay home. Not everybody has that luxury. So I invite you to have a look here yourself when you can walk around on the map. Um, now, oh, we will walk in the direction of my mom's former living quarters. So, and before we arrive there, we can have a look on this little piece of concrete where once used to stand a whole miniature of the neighborhood. All the concrete blocks in miniature concrete. And this somehow reminded me of the comparison of these blocky to cupboards. So I decided to put my own cupboard there. And now in this way, instead of a block being a matryoshka with cupboards inside it, the cupboard itself is a whole house. And there are many things housed in a closet. Um, for example, in Holland, we have a very special use of closets. In the polder, how do we sleep? The attic is taken up by hay, the cellar is undeep because of the clay. We sleep in closets. These closets are called bedstay, the place of the bed. They are built-in wall closets with wooden doors. Inside you find a bed, a shelf, occasionally housing the baby's crib, not much more than that. People used to sleep in a bedstay from the 16th century on. On the countryside they were still popular in the 20th century. A lot of farms still have these bedstays in place. My mom converted them into a wardrobe. I used to hide behind the long dresses on the floor where nobody could find me. So also I invite you to open up all the drawers and cupboards in the closet when you can walk around by yourself. But now we need to move on because we have an appointment at the end of the tour. Um, so I would like to show you uh, the living quarters of my mom more up close. Seems like a perfect day to air out the bed sheets. Um, Now that we've done that, we can sneak inside here because often people go in and out, and we can go up with the elevator and have a look inside these apartments, how people are living. Mm, but since I don't have that much sentiment in a block like this, I propose that we drink coffee elsewhere, and I will show you a place to which I do have sentiment, which is the house of my mom. This is where she grew up and where she lived until she married my dad. And I just got some pictures so I can invite you in. And this is what it looked like just before it got sold. And I remember the wallpaper very well. The whole house got sold with all the furniture in it, and everything was left behind, um, as well as a cross. And one day when I was walking on the town square, uh, somebody approached me and told me that I could pick up the cross of my grandmother one day. So I waited a few seasons. I waited for the right day, and I went back to my grandmother's village and picked up the cross. Uh, and now, as we speak, it's hanging in my living room, um, and my mom is very thankful that it's back in the family again. Um, with the frequent conversations on Skype with my mom right now, because of the pandemic, but also because of the um, amount of miles dividing us, um, everyday stuff is always discussed. Also, something that my mom was pretty worried about that I forgot to put in my thesis. And instead of dedicating the thesis to my parents, I should have put in um, a, a note to thank both my promoters. So um, by this, I would like to say, promoters, thank you for all the support during the writing of my thesis and the making of my artwork for the last few years. Um, just a faux pas that my mom pointed out. Um, Now we jump a little bit to another era. We uh, go to the time when my mom got married, and when she got married, she got this typical Polish china for her wedding. It's a china that for me was always very beautiful because it was very exotic in Holland and it always came out on birthdays. But for my mom, it was kind of mundane, the typical Polish wedding present. Um, and let's have a look how my parents are doing now.
Anna? Is er iets? Brief, Christine.
So, by great coincidence, there has been a movie made about me and my parents, Anna and Henk and Christina, um, which is made by this Algerian uh, filmmaker, director, Karim Traida, who allowed me to use this footage, but it is complete coincidence that this same story turned out on screen. Mm, so now let's go to uh, the polder where my mom arrived uh, when uh, when she fell in love with my dad, and this was for her a very different place from where she had lived her whole life before, completely flat as the surface of water, and completely green, just like the small piece of grass on my balcony. Mm. The first place she arrived was my grandmother's place. It's so flat that even a city without big buildings has a skyline. Uh, this is my grandma's place when my mom arrived, and we used to live right across from my grandmother. So before you arrived, I already took a look around and I inspected the thatched roofs that are just like nests, and I have some footage of me walking around. So I would like to invite you, and we can enter the barn.
Precies, dezelfde geur als bij mijn. Iedereen is happy met de nieuwe seizoensaanbiedingen van Jumbo. Zoals 500 gram witte druiven voor 1,69 en alle soorten Dr. Utker Big Americans pizza 2 voor €4. Seizoensaanbiedingen van Jumbo. Daar wordt iedereen happy van. AutoGP 30 door. Woon hier.
So by first having scared the owner, the person living on the farm now, we were actually invited in, and I also invite you in to have a look at all the nooks and crannies that look exactly the same as when I grew up, and at the dreams that you can find in the cellar. Now, oh yeah, and before we go, we need to remember to take with us the coffee canister that still, after tens of years, is in the little kitchen window. That coffee canister will never move its place. So we take that with us, and now we can go for a summer break. This is a song that I sing for my mom, who told me a few telephone conversations ago that she feels like she went on vacation, but then she stayed behind when everybody went home because she doesn't have a home anymore.
Lato, lato, lato czeka, razem z latem czeka rzeka, razem rzeką czeka las, a tam ciągle nie ma nas. Już za parę dni, za nim parę, wezmę plecak swój i gitarę. Pożegnania kilka słów, Pitagoras, bądź się zdrów, la 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 la, canto cantare.
And now we can go and visit my uncle, one of my favorite places to go when I have summer break. Here in this country with all the nice slanted roofs, we find a lot of antiques and art, and I invite you inside. Willkommen in German. I still speak English because the internet is colonized, but we now visit virtually these real German places. So let's go the treppen hoog to see some antiques and some art in Der Speicher, the place, the attic where you can store everything, and especially when it all becomes too much, you can go and clean up the attic, because up near the roof is where all thoughts are clear.
Tak samo pachniało. No.
To jest taki bardziej, bo to jest duński albo holenderski.
O.
900
Czekaj, Wilhelm
Plac.
Mhm. Co mi się podoba?
Ale czy ty wiesz, że to jest z 913 roku? Chyba.
Co to za zegar?
Piękny zegar, stary. Stary zegar, tylko zgubiłem gdzieś tego, ale to jest super zegar z drewnianymi elementami jeszcze wewnątrz.
On jest mega fajnie pomalowany.
Nie, metalowy wewnątrz, bo jeszcze mam z drewnianymi. Ale to są mechanizmy do nakręcania, to jest taki rodzaj zegara. On chodzi normalnie, tylko ciężarki gdzieś strzeli. Tyle jest fajnych rzeczy na tym strychu.
So since my uncle was a little bit ashamed of his attic not being cleaned up, he told me that we should have coffee with him in the kitchen that he did clean up. And
zobacz, jak to się zmieniło u nas. Czyściutko, wszędzie wypucowane. Tu piękne ciasteczka. Okno wskazuje bardzo ładnie. Teraz pokazuję ci tu płytę. Przepięknie. Na dole. Tu widzisz książki ułożone w piękny sposób. Obrazy, proszę.
Tu nic na fortepianie. Jedziemy z powrotem. Teraz idziemy do przodu. Pokazuję ci tył pełno obrazów, proszę.
So now I hope you've all been transported to the kitchen table, and I propose we have coffee together.